Welcome back to this week's episode of my podcast. I am not worthless, my weekly podcast discussing topics to show my value and worth. This week's topic is going to be graduate school for biology specifically, but it could apply to other areas of science. The reality of getting a bachelor's in biology. You think you're going to go in high school, they ask what career you want to do. If you have interest in biology, whether it's zoology, whether it's botany, physiology, even medical field. Medical field is the only one that I listed that you know when you go in that your bachelor's degree is just step one. You have more schooling you have to do. You have to do specialization. You have to do licensing, etc., 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 just to get in there. But you would think, and what they tell you with a bachelor's degree in biology, the world's your oyster. You've got jobs everywhere. There's job openings all the time. Everybody wants to hire you. The reality is that for bachelor's degrees, biology has nearly a 60% needing to get more school, more degree, more specializations. And universities usually treat it as the bachelor's degree is nothing to them. They literally basically use the bachelor's degree program to get you into more schooling, more education, more money for them. And so if you try to leave school with a bachelor's degree, your job listings, your job openings are pretty much very low level tech work, which there might not be more than 3 job openings in the entire world for that level, or unpaid internships that are open to anyone, not just biology, but anyone with a degree, period. And so you're literally having to choose between making practically no money, where you make more working retail and fast food, or being forced into graduate school, which is basically how I ended up, is that I was forced to apply for graduate schools. Now, that in and of itself isn't a guarantee. First, getting into a program requires you to get letters of recommendation, to have to pay an application fee. Maybe you have to take additional tests depending on the school. And some schools even want you to have research experience before you even enroll in a program to teach you how to do research. Because that's what a master's degree is. It's not as structured, hardcore as a bachelor's program, but it is still guiding you through the process. Now, once you get to PhD and above, that's when you stop getting handheld and you get left alone. And you only have to check in to say what you're doing, what your progress is. Now, once you fill out the application, you paid $50, $75, $100, whatever the fee is for that particular school, you're not guaranteed to get in. Now, I don't know this of every program, but I know a lot of degrees, once you get your bachelor's, if you want to get your master's, you just have to apply and you're in. As long as your GPA is good enough and you've got the right coursework and you've done everything you need to do before you go in, then you're in. Biology and the other sciences, it's not based on your credentials. It's not based on your test scores. It's not based on your GPA, what classes you took, anything. It's based upon which professor in the department has an opening. If one professor has 5 openings and another has 0, or one professor has 5 students and another has 0, then if they only have 3 scholarships available or 3 assistantships available, then those go to the people with the least number of students. So even though your application might be better with GPA, test scores, with classes taken, with how long you took to get your degree, versus somebody who maybe took twice as long as you, has a GPA that's half of yours, they get in because their professor they chose has openings and your professor doesn't. For me, the journey took from 2009 until 2010, when I was in grad school for 1 semester up in Kentucky. Problem, and this is what biology and some other majors I'm sure would have to deal with, is that for my research up there, I needed a vehicle. And because I didn't have one and I couldn't get one, I had to go home. And I spent from 2010 to 2015 looking for jobs, working for jobs, and trying to get into schools. Now understand, every application that I filled out for grad school cost a minimum of $50 per. So if I'm doing, let's say I did 3 a year, 4 a year, 5 a year, that's $300, $250 that you don't get back. They don't refund you the money. The school takes that money and keeps it. Whether you get picked or not, they get to keep it. Now in 2015, I got from a professor and friend of mine in the Department of Mathematics at my alma mater, Stephen F. Austin, that there's a degree that I could get in that would allow me to get into grad school, and it would only be based on my credentials. It wouldn't be based on openings, wouldn't be based on who's got room. It would be based on what my GPA is, what my classwork was, and what my degrees were. So I quit my job, I filed the application, I got in, and eventually I was given to my biology professor to work with him on my master's, doing the project that he had set up and he was going to work on. And that's where the trouble started, because I am still to this day working on my master's. You can only work on your degree so much before you have to hand it off to the professors, the committee, for them to evaluate, analyze, give you feedback, give you direction, push you where you need to go. And as far as I know, and I still believe, that if they tell you to do something, if it's something that you are supposed to do and something that makes sense to do for that project, you do it. You don't question it. You don't complain, because there's no map or guideline that tells you, oh no, you need to be doing this, this, and this at this time, at this time, at this time. And so while you're waiting for that, stressing about not having your degree, not having feedback, you have to find a job. My case, I had to worry about health issues. Numerous health scares have happened since then, and to this day still happen. And so instead of being able to say, yeah, I got my master's in 2019, after 2 years of working on my thesis, I literally had to wait till my professor was ready to work on it. The only years that I was able to actually get any real work done was during COVID. Now, I don't want that to happen again for anyone. I don't think that should be how the system should work, is that it should only work when there's a global catastrophe. But that leads into my next segment, which is basically we need to reevaluate and recalibrate grad school for biology, for science majors. because the current system doesn't work. It basically renders your bachelor's degree meaningless. It's literally almost to the point where, in my opinion, it would be just easier, cheaper, and more efficient to basically create a system where you go into a program for a year to learn whatever skills they need you to learn before you can do the master's program, and it starts you in the master's program from semester 2 or even 3 moving forward. Now, barring that, another suggestion would be that there needs to be a way to fix the communication. There needs to be better communication. I believe that the minute you get into graduate school and the minute you get assigned a professor, phone numbers, email addresses, and windows that are just for that grad student, to where that grad student, if they choose, can contact his or her professor and be like, this is the work I'm doing, this is what I need help with, can you help me? And that professor would be obligated and should be basically directed by the university to handle that student for that time frame. Now, I'm not saying they need to be given a week or a year, an hour a week that's just for that grad student for just that time. So that way, if a professor only has to get 5 students, he only gets 5 hours a week that he has to give up. Considering most professors are only doing 2-3 classes, they don't run the labs, they don't run those kind of things, and so they have time. And again, 1 hour, at most an hour. It might even be 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But something that would allow it to be where a professor and student are given all the opportunity they need to get the degree finished as quickly as possible. Because most jobs, again, are requiring a master's degree to even be allowed to even have your application looked at. If you don't have your master's degree, they won't even look at your application. They'll send some generic, well, you didn't match your qualification email, or even not even send that at all. And so there needs to be a better system of communication, so that way it's not going to have to take 9 years to finish the degree. It might take only a year or 2 years, depending upon the project. I also believe that the timeline of when you start the program to when you get the degree, when you actually get the diploma, needs to be mapped out and put in place on day 1. Literally day 1 of entering the program, so that no one can claim ignorance of student being in the department, student working on a project, student needing to be there. Otherwise, you're going to have more people like me, or even longer, or even people who quit midstream because they can't handle the stress, or they can't handle the silence because they're not getting feedback. Because to finish a master's degree, you need the cooperation of the school and the committee that you are with. The people you are with, the teachers you're with, professors you're with, whatever. You need their cooperation, and you can't do it on your own. And so if they're not going to help that, or if they're going to be distracted by other things, then there needs to be some kind of system in place. That way nobody is left in the dark. Because if I do all my work, if I do what's asked of me, the minimum I should expect in return is the same. Do your work, do your job. I also believe that there needs to be a different way in which research opportunities, internships, study programs, tools, whatever, needs to be more readily available. Because if you get your bachelor's degree, you should be able to get a job that pays more than retail and fast food. And that could be applied to any degree. Next week, we're going to discuss. I think I'm going to do a mathematics topic next week. I think that sounds interesting to me. And so I'll see you next week. Enjoy.